measurement of uncertainty, understanding and calculating uncertainty in the clinical laboratory. Okay, so I have divided our topic for today into 6 topics. Sorry, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5 topics. The context and interest of the uncertainty calculation, uncertainty and ISO 15589, application of MU, calculation of MU with software, and also performance requirements. Okay, so first, the basic of measurement uncertainty. So what exactly is measurement uncertainty and where does it come from? Okay, so uncertainty exists because of no matter how careful assays are controlled or instruments are maintained, there will always be variation in a measurement process. When running tests in a laboratory, there are many different variables that can influence instrument performance. Factors like sample storage and handling, environmental condition, operator changes, and calibrator condition can all affect assay's results. These are all sources of uncertainty. In other words, so let's say example, I'm releasing result of albumin 32. So when albumin 32, is this albumin 32 gram per liter is a true value? Is an accurate 100% accurate? Can I have a show of hand? Who said that if we release a result, a laboratory release a result 32 for albumin, it is 100% accurate? It's a true value.
Miss Vickie, I think the slide is quite lag. We stay on the second on the basis of measurement uncertainty.
Yeah, it's still on this screen.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, so let's say example in a lab, we are releasing a result of 32 albumin. So is this 32 result is accurate, 100% accurate? No, we cannot be assured. It can be slightly lower or slightly higher because we are uncertain of the true value. This is because of the sample storage, handling, and the environmental condition. These are many causes of uncertainty, and while attempts should be made to control them when possible, assay result will inevitably still vary. This is unavoidable. As variation and error are inherently involved in any measurement process, defining and calculating uncertainty ranges provide a useful context for understanding how much variation we are working with. Okay, in other words, uncertainty is because we are not sure the result that we release is 100% correct or not because of the variation. So that's the reason why we need to measure uncertainty so that we know that how accurate is our instrument. Definition. The definition of uncertainty in measurement according to ISO is parameter associated with a result of a measurement that characterize the dispersion of value that could be reasonably attributed to the measurement. The result of a measurement shall always give information about an interval within which the result can be expected with a given probability. Means to say that when we release a result, we should release together with the interval. Interval means that even though we give a true value, it could be minus to certain numbers and also plus to certain levels. Result that we release should be in a interval. Okay. The concept of uncertainties as defined by ISO require that all steps involved in a measurement are defined and evaluated with regards to their uncertainty. This is a great help in characterizing and optimizing the performance of a measurement procedure because the source of uncertainty will be reviewed. The lab can review the results and select the steps that require improvement in an orderly and reproducibility manner. Okay, so this means that to calculate MU, it involves all the steps. It involves from the initial, the pre-analytical step, the sampling, the sample preparation, to the analytical step, the calibration, the dilution, the machine performance, and also to the post-analytical step, transformation and correction, or the software or the result transcription. So the accumulated data shall then be combined. Okay. To calculate MU, we need to involve all the steps: the pre-analytical step, the analytical step, and also the post-analytical step. So this is a great help to help us to look at each procedure. What is the uncertainty? And then where is the weakness? And so that we can do the improvement in orderly and reportability manner. So meaning to say that after we calculate the MU, we know the performance. Of course, we will choose for the next step for improvement. If we don't do all MU in step by step, then we will not know which procedure or which area need more improvement. Okay, source of uncertainty. Source of uncertainty started from pre-analytical, the patient state, whether it's fasting or non-fasting. Okay, so even though the patient can tell you that I'm fasting before you draw the blood, but at the end, whether the patient truly fasting or not, we will never know. So this is already an uncertainty. Biological variation also contribute to the uncertainty of the measurement, patient preparation, time of sample collection, the site of sample collection, the sample technique, the method of collection, transportation, and also the storage. So this is a field of uncertainty that derive from the pre-analytical steps. And then for the analytical step, where is the uncertainty came from? From the preparation of sample, the sample property, what is the matrix, the interference compound, the environmental condition, calibrator and calibration, factors relating to the measuring instrument, including measurement precision, factor related to the measurement, reagent composition, volume of sample and reagent, and also the analyst. Analyst is the user who run the sample. And came to the post-analytical software, including the algorithm, reporting of the result, and interpretation of the results. So all these uncertainty source must be evaluated and brought to the uncertainty budget. Okay, so according to ISO 15189, measurement uncertainty or measurement quality values, the laboratory shall determine measurement uncertainty for each measurement procedure in the examination phase used to report quantitative values on patients' results. So under ISO requirement, all parameter or all the tests that have quantitative value on patient result need to be calculated the MU. Then how about qualitative testing? So qualitative assay that use quantitative basis to express result require an estimation of MU also. Example like tests that use the sample cutoff. Okay, so example for HIV, you have a sample cutoff of 1. Less than 1 is negative, more than 1 is positive. Yeah, and then means that this sample cutoff reading also need estimate of MU. So this MU is not only related to quantitative testing, it's also related to qualitative testing. Okay, so let us go further. What is uncertainty and ISO 15189? Okay, under ISO 15189 5.514, measurement uncertainty of measuring quantity values under the note 1. We won't go through to ISO 15189 in details, but I already grabbed a few notes related to what is the important note. The relevant uncertainty component are those associated with the actual measurement process, commencing with the presentation of the sample to the measurement procedure and ending with the output of the measurement values. So initially, we said that we need to calculate MU start from pre-analytical, analytical, and also the post-analytical step. But when we refer to this note, in short, no need to look at pre-analytical or post-analytical uncertainty components. So meaning to say that referring to this note, we can ignore the pre-analytical and post-analytical part, because in reality, it's very hard to calculate the pre-analytical and the post-analytical part because there is no calculation involved, or no fixed values or no values involved compared to the analytical process. Okay, and then under note 2, measurement uncertainty may be calculated using quantitative values obtained by the measurement of quality control materials under intermediate precision conditions that include as many routine changes as reasonably possible in the standard operation of a measurement procedure. Example, changes of reagent and calibrator batches, different operator schedule, instrument maintenance. Okay, under note 1, ISO 15189 has specified that we can ignore the analytical and post-analytical process. We should only pay attention on the analytical process. So under the analytical process, what is the area that we are looking at? We'll be looking at the intermediate precisions. Intermediate precision, where can we get this? Is from your quality control materials. And it should be as long as possible to include as many routine changes as reasonably possible. So ISO recommends long-term QC data. If these QC results are obtained over a period of several months, they can be expected to reflect the contribution of different lots of reagent, calibrator, different lots of calibrator, analyzer pipetting, temperature stability, sensor stability, different operator, different operating condition. Thus, this provides a realistic estimate of random error that affect the variability of laboratory measure. Okay, ignoring the pre-analytical part, ignoring the post-analytical part. Now, to calculate MU, we can focus on the analytical part. So, first aspect or first area in the analytical part that we should be looking at is our long-term QC data that reflect the precision condition, or we can term it as random error. By looking at the long-term quality control material QC data, it can reflect the random error of our instrument. So we have random error. Of course, we also need to include our systemic error. In addition to the variability from the random error, there is the possibility of systemic error or bias. Okay, so let us look at this diagram. If this is my center or my true value, so if I get all my data at one side, this is a systemic error whereby it's precise but not accurate. Compared to the second picture over here, if this is my target, but my result is scattered everywhere. So scattered everywhere, this is considered as a random error. So bias may be estimated by analysis of certified reference material. This can be done, but it's a rare and expensive. Comparison of patient results between methods. This also can be done, but it's difficult to do it. The easier way to get the bias is either from the external quality assurance EQA program or from the interlaboratory comparison, such as from the Unity program. EQA is for ECAS, EQA is for external quality assurance is for EQA program, and interlaboratory comparison is for the IQC program. So we can get our source of bias either from EQA or from IQC. Okay, so let us recap a little bit. Earlier, we mentioned about context and interest of the calculation. So where we see that regardless any measurement that we do, even though you are using a ruler to make a measurement to measure how long is your pen, there will be uncertainty. We always not sure that what is the true value because of so many uncertainty. In a laboratory, the uncertainty can start from pre-analytical, patient fasting, the collection, the storage, to analytical, our machine calibration, our QC performance, to post-analytical. Yeah. So that's the reason why we need to calculate MU. We need to check our measurement. Actually, is how correct is the measurement, and then how variable is it. And then we come to the uncertainty and ISO 15189. So under ISO 15189, it's stated over there, we can ignore the pre-analytical part, and then we can ignore the post-analytical part. We should focus on the analytical part to calculate our MU. And then to calculate this MU, we have two factors, the precision factor and also the bias factor. Okay, so before we go to the calculation, we look at what is the application of MU. After we calculate MU, so how do we use the MU? This is under note 3, example of practical utility of measurement uncertainty might include confirmation that patient value meet quality goals set by the laboratory and meaningful comparison of a patient values with the previous values of the same type or with a clinical decision values. Okay, so example for this case. If the two interval result plus minus MU overlaps, no possible conclusion or result could be the same. So example for this case, let's say my first reading, this is my first reading, M over here. And when we include our MU, my reading could be from here to here. And the next reading, the next day or 1 week later, the same patient come back for a follow-up diagnosis or follow-up testing, then they get the second result over here. So if you can see, the first result, it could be from here to here. And the second result, it could be here from here after we include the MU. And then we can see an overlapping part over here. So when there overlapping part over here, no possible conclusion, result could be the same. Because even though I release the first reading, my result could be here. After I release my second reading, my result also could be here. So we cannot make a conclusion whether these two results, this first reading and second reading, is it the same or different. Compared to this situation, this is the second situation. If the two interval result plus minus UM or MU do not overlap, we are able to provide a conclusion results are different. So meaning to say, if I get a reading A over here, my MU is just only this range, and then my second reading over here, and then MU is from this range. There is no overlapping with this within these two results, then we can firmly say that these two reading is different. Or let's see another example over here. Okay, so this is my reading. Last week reading is 5 grams per liter. And then this week reading is 8 grams per liter. 5 and 8. Is there any difference between 5 and 8? So can we say that the reading increased? Or is the reading the same? Okay, so anyone want to help me to answer? Or okay, who said that 8 and 5 over here is a different reading? Can you show up your hand? It's different reading. Okay, a lot say it's different reading. Who said, okay, now, who said 8 and 5 is same reading? 8 and 5 is the same reading or different reading? Okay, so basically we cannot we won't know this 5 and 8 is the same or different reading until we look at the MU. Because different MU will have different impact on these two results. First situation, my MU is plus minus 3 gram per liter. If that's the case, my last week reading could be from 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So how do I get this calculation? My result is 5. When I minus 3, I will get 4, 3, 2. And I add 3, I will get 6, 7, 8. So meaning to say that even though I release a result of 5, but because my MU is plus minus 3, my actual reading could be from 2 to 8. Then compared to this week, we will do the same calculation. Reading is 8, reading is 8, and then we minus 3, 7, 6, 5, and plus 3, 9, 10, 11. So is there overlapping between these two results or not? So yes, there's overlapping. When there's overlapping, so means that it could be the same. This result could be the same. So 5 and 8 could be the same reading. Then we cannot conclude or cannot conclude if whether these two results is the same or different. It could be the same if the true value is 5, 6, 7, and 8. It could be different if the first reading is 3, the second reading is 10. Compared to a better instrument with a small MU. So if we have a small MU, last week could be only, maybe it's 4, maybe it's 5, maybe it's 6. Compared to this week, maybe it's 7, maybe it's 8, maybe it's 9. There is no overlapping between the two. And we can surely say that the results are different. So that's why it is important to calculate the MU, and then this MU is important to the clinician. So that clinician, when they interpret the results, they will know that if the two reading is the same or is different. Okay, the first example is for follow-up treatment or follow-up testing, whereby you compare the first result with the previous results. MU is also applicable for those with a clinical decision values. Example for the practical utility of measurement uncertainty estimate might include confirmation that patient value meet quality goals set by the laboratory and meaningful comparison of a patient value with a previous value of the same type or with a clinical decision values. So example for this case, comparison is a clinical decision value. So this is a decision limit of decision. Limit of decision example that cutoff, below cutoff is negative, above cutoff is positive, or below cutoff is normal, above cutoff is abnormal. So if I get a result over here, and when I include in the MU, part of my result falls below cutoff, and part of my result fall above cutoff. So under this situation, we are not able to provide a conclusion on these results compared to limit of decision. So means that even though by number it looks positive on the higher side, above the side, but when we include MU, it fall below the limit of decision also. So we cannot conclude for this case whether it's a true positive or a false positive. Compared to this situation, so it's a very obvious situation. If the limit of decision is outside the interval result plus minus UM, we can provide a conclusion on this result compared to the decision values. So for these results, it's directly above the limit of the decision, then we can surely say that, yes, this is positive or abnormal. So example over here, if my reading is 6 and my cutoff for negative is 4, above 4 is positive. So this also depends on your MU. If my MU is 4 plus minus 4 gram per liter, then my result could be 5, 4, 3, 2, and also 7, 8, 9, and 10. And where is my cutoff? So this is my cutoff. My cutoff is in between all the results. So meaning to say that even though I have a reading of 6 and my cutoff is 4, statistically, it looks like 6 is above 4. It should be positive. But once we include the MU in, we can say that we can see that the cutoff is in between. It could be negative. It could be positive. We are unable to make a confirmed decision. Compared to a MU of plus minus 1 gram per liter. So my reading is 6. Minus 1 is 5. Plus 1 is 7. So where is my cutoff? My cutoff is over here. Then for this case, we can surely say this is a positive result. So this is how, once we calculate the MU, we will share it with the clinician, and then clinician will use this information to interpret the results. Whether it's a confirmed changes, or it's a confirmed negative, or confirmed positive, or it's a gray zone results. For this situation, we call it equivocal or gray zones or undetermined, because we are not sure whether it's a true positive or a false positive. So that's a application of the MU. So now we let's go for the calculation of MU. So how to calculate MU? To calculate MU, we have to refer back to this Bible. MU is on MU, guide to the expression of uncertainty in measurement, otherwise known as GUM. So this is the initial books who guide how to calculate MU. The GUM approach usually emphasizing identifying the many factors that contribute to the variation of measurements results, then characterizing the variance of each of those factors, and combining those variants to describe the uncertainty in the final test results. So this approach is also described as a top-down methodology. So referring to GUM, we need to identify as many factors as possible. Start from pre-analytical, analytical, post-analytical. And then we calculate all the variants and we get the final MU. So this is a top-to-down methodology. So for those who are interested by pages of mathematical equation, then this should be a interesting reading, because in this book, it involves a lot of calculations. In contrast, there is also a bottom-up methodology, where the estimate of variation comes directly from the experimental data, such as method validation experiment or routine quality control data. The bottom-up methodology is more suitable for our medical laboratory, where the interest is mainly to characterize the variation that will be expected in the final test results, which can be directly estimated from long-term QC data. This bottom-up approach depends primarily on obtaining a reliable and realistic estimate of the method's CV. So this bottom-up methodology is more applicable to our medical laboratory, whereby we just use the long-term QC data. And then this bottom-up methodology also compliance to the ISO 15189, whereby ISO 15189 also stated we can ignore the pre-analytical and post-analytical, and we focus on the analytical phase, and we can use the long-term QC data. So when we say long-term QC data, long-term QC data, generally we are referring to 6 months and above. The more, the better. You can use for 9 months or 1 year, but at least you need 6-month data, so that it will be more realistic. They have all the variation, changes of reagent, changes of reagent lot, changes of calibrator lot, and all other variations. Okay, so to calculate MU, of course, there's a lot of formulas. And one of the software that provide this MU calculation is our Unity real-time software. This software is our IQC software, and then this software has built-in formula to calculate MU. So in our Unity real-time software, we have 3 formula included. We have standard, expanded uncertainty. We have combined expanded uncertainty with inter-laboratory bias, and also combined expanded uncertainty, the calibration uncertainty. Okay, so let us look at the formula that is offered by this Unity real-time software. So this is the first available formula, bottom-up approach, which use the long-term imprecision or standard deviation. This standard deviation is multiplied by 2 to provide the expanded measurement of uncertainty. So the formula is just ST times 2 or CV times 2. So this is the basic MU formula, ignoring the bias. Can be calculated by level if significant differences in imprecision are seen. So meaning to say that level 1 and level 2 have different imprecision, then we can calculate 2 levels. Try to use level close to the clinical decision level. So this formula is obtained from RCPA Guideline Uncertainty of Measurement version November 2013. This is the first formula that we can use to calculate MU. And so instead of using manual calculation, if you have this Unity software, you just have to click it, and then it will have the table ready. You have the test configuration, you have the statistic, you have the uncertainty in absolute values, and also uncertainty in percentage. And then later on, you can export to Excel for more calculation, or you can print directly into PDF. The second formula that is available from this software is bottom-up approach, which use the long-term imprecision or standard deviation combined with the bias. The bias here is using the inter-laboratory program or the IQC bias. The MU is multiplied by 2 to provide the expanded measurement uncertainty. So this is the calculation or the formula to calculate the MU, which include the IQC bias. This formula is obtained from Conference SHGTA 14 Technical Guide for MU Calculation.
Yeah.
And also the same thing, with just one click from this software, you have all the information ready. So this is the legend, the month, and then we have the test configuration, we have the statistic, calculation,
Dalam grup ABG kan kita orang ada grup.
the uncertainty in absolute value, and also the uncertainty in percentage. And then this is all the values being used, the ST, the bias, and also the ST bias. After the calculation, we can convert or export to Excel, and also directly print to PDF. So this is the inter-laboratory bias, include inter-laboratory bias. And then the third formula that is available in this software that we can adopt is the bottom-up approach, which use the long-term imprecision or standard deviation combined with calibrator uncertainty. So this standard deviation is also multiplied by 2 to provide the expanded measurement uncertainty. So over here, it not only using the IQC standard deviation, it also include in the calibrator uncertainty. So the same also, this formula is from conference SH GTA 14 Technical Guide for MU calculation. And here is how it looks like, the test configuration, the statistic, the uncertainty in absolute value, and also the uncertainty in percentage. For the calibrated uncertainty, we need to get it from your instrument vendor, and then we need to manually input it. So we can export to Excel or directly save to PDF. So that's the calculation. Easy, right? Yeah. So of course, with software, it will help us to calculate everything with just a few clicks. Provided you have all the QC data in the software, and then with just a click, then you can straight away get your MU. Okay. So after we calculate the MU, we have the values over there, and then we can pass it to clinician for their result review or for their result interpretation. But what MU do to the lab? Okay, so after we calculate the MU, then we need to check whether the MU is it acceptable or not. So that's where come to the last topic, the performance requirement. So earlier we said we can see that we can have MU of just now, what is it? MU of 3 and MU of 1. So how good is 3? How good is 1? Is it MU, of course, the smaller the better, but is it the 3 acceptable? Yeah, that's why we need to check with the performance requirements. According to ISO 15189, the laboratory shall define the performance requirement for the measurement uncertainty for each measurement procedure and regularly review estimate of measurement uncertainty. So means that we need to set what we want, what is the criteria that we need, and then review regularly. The laboratory shall define goals for how good their test should be, then evaluate how good they are by comparison to their defined goal. So meaning to say that during any process, when we calculate a MU, first we need to define what is the requirement that we want, or what is the acceptable MU that we want for this test. Example, albumin, I want a MU of less than 5%. Or for ALP, I need a MU that is less than 2%. So once we define our we define our goal, then we calculate our MU, and then we compare our MU to our goal, whether we hit the goal or not. So this goal, in another word, is also can be performance specification, or we can also name it as TEA, total allowable error. Based on this guideline by Fraser, to define your performance specification, first of all, you need to refer to the specific clinical requirement. So meaning to say that if your doctor have any requirement or not, if your doctor say, okay, for albumin, I can only accept 2% total allowable error, then we should set our goal as 2%. Or doctor say, for my bilirubin direct, I can only accept 5% allowable error, then we need to set that as our performance specification or total allowable error. Because requirement definitely have to base on clinical requirement. If there's no clinical requirement, then we can refer to the biological variation. If there's no values in the biological variation, then we can follow professional recommendation like CIA or specification made by EQA organization like CAP surveys or the RCPA. And lastly, if you don't have all the information, BV don't have, CIA don't have, RCPA don't have, then we can follow published data on state of the art. State of the art just means that based on how good is the current technology, anyone do any study on that specific test. But moving forward, there's another guideline from Sandberg. This Sandberg had have simplified the decision whereby which we should follow. First, of course, still the same based on clinical outcome. If we don't have any clinical outcome or the clinician don't have any requirement, then we can follow BV, biological variation. If there's no BV, then you come to state of the art. State of the art include all others, organization like CIA, RCPA, everything. So this is how we want to decide which performance specification we want to use based on this hierarchy. It's not based on which result is easier to achieve. It's because it's based on what we want. Okay, so this is example of a biological variation table. It has a optimum requirement, desirable requirement, and also the minimum requirement. But this table is not updated. The updated version, we need to find it online using this EFLM website. So this EFLM website will be responsible to make all the updating. If there is any update on any BV values, it will be reflected in this version, in this web page. Okay, so it's also in our software. This TEA requirements is available. You just need to tick over here, and then we can display the TEA over here. So it's for us to easy to compare what MU that we get, and then what is the requirement that we choose. So the requirement all is not predefined, sorry, it's available in the software itself. You just need to choose whether you want to follow BV minimum, desirable optimum, CIA, really bad. Yeah, Germany, Belgium. So all the requirement is available for us to choose from this software. And then it will be displayed side by side with your MU reading so that we can compare directly what is our MU compared to the total allowable error. Okay, so our database is also updated to EFLM. We are not doing real-time update, but we will update periodically. Okay, so that's the end of my presentation. So we have covered the context, what is the basic of MU, and what is the relevant to the ISO 15189. And then we look at the 3 formula that is available in Unity software, the application of the MU. Yeah. So with MU, we will know if 2 results are the same or different. With MU, we will know if the result is positive, negative, or indeterminate. And also with MU, we will know if our machine performs well within specification. So if it's within specification, means that we can continue to use. If it is not within specification, then it is our responsibility to troubleshoot the instrument and to make sure that our instrument is performing and able to release a good results. That's the end for my presentation for today.
Okay, thank you, Miss Vickie. From the chat box, we have quite a number of questions. I will start from the first one.
Sure.
There is a comment from Eng Pui Wan stating that MU is meant for the measurement procedure. Factors narrated for pre-analytical are mostly not MU, but be considered as bias or real differences in samples. Can you comment on that? You can see it from the chat box. Yeah. You can scroll up from
the top. Salam.
Eng Pui Wan. Okay, yes. Eng Pui Wan. Okay.
So MU as meant for the measurement procedure. Factor narrated for pre-analytical are mostly no MU, but be considered as bias or real differences in sample? Sorry, I don't quite understand the question.
I
Okay.
mean, I think maybe for the calculation of MU, it involves measurement, right?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So the concept of NU, of course, it involves the pre-analytical step, because the pre-analytical step will also contribute to the differences, the reliability of the results, whether the patient fasting or not fasting, it will affect the outcome of the results. But in terms of calculating the MU, the pre-analytical step is, there is no easy way to calculate that. There is no easy way to calculate the pre-analytical step. What is the MU? What is the uncertainty? Looking at the situation, looking at this situation, that's why we can ignore the pre-analytical step and also post-analytical step and focus on the analytical. So analytical will involve the bias and also the precision. Because for pre-analytical part is very subjective, there is no calculation or no values that we can input in. For example, fasting or non-fasting. How do we calculate that? We cannot calculate that. So we cannot say that we know there's a variation or there's a factor, but we are unable to do the calculation. So that's why for MU, for medical laboratory, we will focus more on the analytical part, the instrument CV and also the instrument bias.
Okay, moving on to the second question from Muhammad Idrus. What is the difference between standard uncertainty and expanded uncertainty?
Yeah, standard uncertainty is the initial calculation. I mean the first calculation, I mean the formula, you will calculate the standard uncertainty first, and then we will expand it by times 2. Times 2 to have a higher confidence level. Example, if you calculate your MU, you get a reading of 2. 2 is just the standard uncertainty. So if we extend it by calculating, by duplicate, by multiplying by 2, our final MU or the expanded MU will be 4. So 4 will be more comfortable, whereby it will cover for all the error.
Okay. Next question is from Kamal Mirza. Can we use MU to determine significance of changes between two results? And what is the difference between MU and RCV?
Yes, we can use MU to determine significant changes of two results. Sorry, for RCV, I'm not familiar yet. I cannot comment anything on RCV. But for MU, yes, you can use to differentiate whether two results is significant different or not.
Next question from Ahmad Muhammad Hasnul. Is there any related issue between MU and sigma calculation?
Calculation-wise, both of them is... Okay, I can say that both have... The calculation-wise, both can be the same. The information that is used to calculate MU and sigma is the same, whereby for MU, you need the precision and the bias. Sigma, you also need the precision and the bias. But the difference is different application. Different application means that for MU, we calculate the MU for clinical use. For clinical use to interpret the result, whether it's a significant difference or not, whether it's above cutoff or below cutoff or not. It's mostly for result interpretation. And then the second part is, of course, to see whether our instrument meet the requirement or not, meet the performance specification that we have decided or not. And then for sigma, sigma is more to QC management planning, whereby you calculate your sigma, whereby you calculate your sigma, you differentiate your test to different sigma. which test belongs to good sigma, which test belong to bad sigma. And then from there, you will decide which QC rules to use. So we can, MU and sigma is calculation similar. You need the CV, you need the bias, but MU is more for result interpretation, and sigma is for us to decide for QC management, which rules to use, and also how frequent we need to run the QC. It's related, but it's different area.
Really, okay. Related for two different purposes lah.
Two different purposes, yes.
Another question from Ahmad. How MU can save the laboratory budget?
I don't think MU can save your budget. Save budget is under sigma.
Okay. Another question from Azlan. I think U uncertainty equal to SD times 2. So why times 2?
From Azlan, okay.
Yeah, Azlan, yeah.
Why times 2? Times 2 is the expanded or the general factor that everyone is general factor. Generally for all the formula that I look at, actually it's not exactly 2, it's 1.96 or 1.99. So they run out to 2. So they choose a care factor of 2 is so that it can include in, it expand the probability. If you just put 1, it will be very narrow. We may miss out a few outliers. So we increase it to 2 to be more comfortable, whereby it may cover the slightly outlier. And then why is 2? Then of course we need to refer back to the journal why they choose the number 2. But for generally, it's a comfortable level to ability.
Question from JV Chong. Actually, it's same question as me. Is MU for qualitative assay like HIV different from quantitative?
It's the same calculation. It's the
Because
same.
for example, I'm working in a genetic lab, so most of our result is qualitative. So how can we calculate MU for qualitative assay?
Okay, in your results, before you get your results, is there any reading?
For example, like real-time PCR, we have CT values.
CT value.
Yeah. And then from the cut-off threshold, then we decide whether the sample is positive or negative. So, yeah.
That means that you need to calculate MU based on your CT values.
But is there any guideline for qualitative assay?
There is no specific guideline.
Mm-hmm.
There's no specific guideline, but there's just a general statement mentioning that even though for qualitative testing, if you have values or sample cutoff, then you can calculate MU.
Okay.
Because that one is also very important. You have your CT values and then you have the cutoff. So how assured that your cutoff is correct? If you are slightly above your cutoff is 25, is it 30 or 25? Example.
Let's say if the example is on borderline cutoff lah.
Yeah. So for borderline cutoff, if your manufacturer already give you a borderline cutoff, then you will know that whether this is net or gross. But if your manufacturer just give you a 30, above 30 is positive, less than 30 is negative. If you get a CT value of 31, are you really confirmed that 31 is positive?
But I think in a different scenario for a genetic lab, usually we did another test to confirm the result lah. But for calculation, I'm not sure. Maybe I have to check back.
Yeah. So for calculation wise, you need to calculate and see whether it's practical or not.
Okay. May I add something regarding on Mr. Ehsan's question? Okay. I think this one is more to the semi-quantitative assay. It's not a total qualitative assay. I think referring to your slide just now, it's based on the detection limit, right? Either it's your I or whatever. Okay. Either it's positive or negative based on the detection limit. Okay. Now my question is, if any assay that we brought from the company for the kit itself, they already mentioned a product insert which is they have a borderline or gray zone. Should we calculate the MU also? Can you get my question?
Yes, I understand. I understand your question. The vendor already tell you what is the uncertainty,
Okay.
right? Because it
Yeah.
give you it already give you the equivocal range.
Yes, correct.
According to ISO, you still need to calculate. Maybe it's not for application, but it's to verify.
Okay, right. Thank you.
Another question from Cik Zohemi. The software Unity can be used for any analyzer? Is it an open software?
Our software is for the IQC, quality control, meaning to say that if you are using our BioRite IQC console, any instrument also can be used. You can use for any instrument as long as the quality control that you are using is from BioRite.
From BioRite. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, question from Uy Pai In. If I set my performance specification for certain analytes desirable BV, however, one of my analyzer can achieve, but another analyzer maybe can only achieve minimum BV. Do I need to do the troubleshooting for my second analyzer which cannot achieve the performance that I set?
Yes. You have two instruments. One can achieve desirable, one only can achieve minimum.
Minimum, yeah.
So you need to troubleshoot on the minimum machine to make sure that both is comparable. Or you reduce both the requirement. We always refer to the lowest or the worst requirement. So either you drop down your requirement so that two machines will be on par you choose the minimum requirement, or if you insist to have a desirable performance, then you need to troubleshoot the minimum BV to up to the desirable standard.
Okay, question from JV Chong. If I use the Unity software for COI, it will work?
Yes, COI is cut off index, right? Yes.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yes, okay, yes.
Cut off index.
COI.
Yeah. Our software can record quantitative. We can record sample cutoff or cutoff index. We can also record for qualitative and quantitative testing. The software means that the negative, positive, your urine analysis, the 1+, 2+, 3+, and those can be recorded in the Unity software also.
Okay, next from microbiology, HPSF, may I know any references for BV for certain qualitative measurements, for example, anti-HIV?
This one need to check the EFLM website.
Yeah, the website you shared previously, right?
Yes, you just go to the search, you search your analyte.
Okay. Question from Muhammad Zulfa is, can your software combine MU for two analyzers since we measure analytes using the analyzer interchangeably?
At this moment, the formula cannot be used to combine two instruments. But under the software, we have another statistic. We call it the data analysis script, whereby from there you can combine the statistic from two instruments. In other words, the software cannot calculate directly for combined instruments, but it has way to get the statistic.
So I finished reading all the questions from the chat box. Is there any additional question before we end today's session? You can unmute yourself too if you want to ask directly, or you can write it on in the chat box.
Any other question?
I think there's no question. So before we okay, from microbiology, I already searched in the EFLM, but all the BV reference only applicable for quantitative parameter. Yeah.
So means that we follow back the hierarchy. If there is no clinical requirement, there is no BV, then the next choice will be the state of the art. State of the art means that you can refer to journals for the specific test, or you can refer to your manufacturer, what is the allowable limit or the DEA.
Okay, another question. Okay, same question like before. U equal to SD times 2. Does it mean result will fall within 95% confidence interval?
95%, yes. Time 2 is 95%.
Any other question? Okay. All right. I think that's all. Thank you, Miss Vickie, for your sharing session today. We greatly appreciate it. Before I end our webinar today, I would like to make one announcement. Okay. We will have the next webinar on 24 November 2022 regarding prosedur perpindahan dan penempatan pegawai sains KKM. So I'll invite everyone to join our webinar, I think in 2 weeks, next week. Yeah. So thank you everyone for joining us today. Please don't forget to fill in the attendance link. Okay, Miss Vickie, last question. Do you have any contact number?
17206661.
Okay. All right. Okay, Miss Vickie have shared her contact number in the chat box. So everyone, please don't forget to fill in your attendance link. The recording of this webinar and e-certificate will be sent to you through email. Okay, thank you, Miss Vickie, for your time and for your sharing today. See you again next time.
Thank you. Thank you everyone for your time.
Everyone. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Last question from Dr. Muhammad Joka. For cut-off level, you can refer to ISO TF 2094.
Oh, this is not question. This is advice from Dr.
Yeah,
Joko.
advice, yeah.
Mm.
Okay, all right. Thank you, everyone.